Hey now, how's it going? Michael Remis here with the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction, talking about Game 4 of the Winnipeg Jets St. Louis Blues first round series. The Winnipeg Jets losing 5-1 to the Blues. The series is now tied 2-2, coming back to Winnipeg on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. start time. I'm so pumped to be joined by Connor Hrabchak. Connor, having a lot of familiar feelings about this game compared to Game 3. I was like, hey, can't we just repost what we did for Game 3? But no, we are here. We're going to talk all about it. Connor, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. And how are you doing this Sunday evening?
Yeah, doing well. Had time to digest this one, of course, with the noon start. I know some people loved that. I know some people hated it. I know Jets fans definitely don't like it as much given how the game went, and they have the rest of their Sunday to kind of sit with the 5-1 loss. But yeah, we'll dive into this one from every single angle. Series is still tied, best of three with home ice advantage. Scott O'Neill said after the game that's what they fought for all season long, was to have home ice advantage in a situation like this. So we'll see if the Jets can use it to their advantage. But first, we got Game 4 to break down.
Yeah, we're going to do some final thoughts about the series moving forward when we're all done. But I agree. I think if you're the Jets, you have to have the mindset, hey, it's best of three now, and we have home ice advantage where the Jets won 2 games, the first two. So we'll get more into post-game, post-game thoughts after, but we're going to go through the game. Pre-game, Connor, some lineup changes. One, Dylan DeMello in, and he missed last game with illness. Gabriel Velarde, we were wondering about him, shed the non-contact jersey on Saturday, but took warm-ups, game time decision, didn't play. To change on defense, Hayden Fleury in for Logan Stanley, and then a little swap on line 3 and line 4 of the forwards, Barron and Tanev. Heading into the game, your thoughts on the line changes that took place?
Yeah, obviously we were hoping for Gabriel Velarde to play, but he didn't take line rushes the day before in practice. So we were saying the morning of that if Gabriel Velarde is going to play, it's probably going to be in a fourth line role and as maybe a power play specialist, but obviously he didn't play. The Hayden Fleury for Logan Stanley decision, I think strictly had to do with the Jets' inability to pass the puck out of their own zone in Game 3. They turned the puck over a ton. Credit to the Blues. Their forecheck was absolute money in Game 3. And I think the Jets were trying to combat that by putting maybe a better puck mover in Hayden Fleury next to Luke Shen instead of Logan Stanley. And then up front with Morgan Barron, a lot of people in Winnipeg Sports Talks chats have been asking for more Morgan Barron, and I thought he was really good in this game as well. And he's been really good for a lot of games, and a lot of it has come since he moved to center. But I think in this game he proved that he was position proof, if you want to say. Whether he's a winger, whether he's a center, he's going to bring that same style of play, and I thought he brought it. And I liked the move because Morgan Barron has earned more ice time, in my opinion.
Yeah, the story for me coming to the game was secondary scoring. The Jets, struggling to score in the last game, and you saw that again tonight. Connor and Scheifele driving the bus there, but they need someone else to help, and it's been the fourth line who's put in 2. You haven't got a lot from line 2 or 3, and maybe a shakeup could change things. And Scott O'Neill was asked about injuries after the game. He didn't want to disclose. He was asked about Stan specifically if it was injury related, and he would not. He's like, everyone's dealing. Wouldn't say, but I agree. Going with the puck moving to combat this ferocious forecheck from the Blues, and we're gonna get into the first period here. And I got to give a shout out to the sponsor, KFC. KFC Canada is an official partner of the Winnipeg Jets and is committed to providing Jets fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-licking good promotions they're proud to bring to Canada Life Centre. On Jets game days, KFC Canada is giving away their Big Crunch chicken sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jets fans enjoy the game with a big hit. We saw Colonel Sanders at the games in Winnipeg. He was in full whiteout gear, cheering on the Jets, and Kyle F. Connor. Looks like KFC really loves KFC, and KFC did get on the board tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. But Connor, that $4.95 for a Big Crunch, that's a pretty good deal on a game day. So I got to remind that to myself. Put it in my calendar for Wednesday's game. A lot of time with the 8:30 start. But speaking of start times, a lot of talk coming into the game about the Jets needing to get a good start. They got steamrolled in Game 3 by the Blues' pressure, and I think they weathered the storm, having to kill a penalty early, but really, were able to put their stamp on the game, outshooting the Blues handily for the first half of the first period.
Yeah, and they had 2 power plays at this time as well. Like you talk about them weathering the early PK, and I thought their penalty kill for how big of a storyline it has been coming into this game was really solid in this one. They were perfect. One of the goals that we'll get to later on, the Blues scored just after the power play ended. So whether or not you want to, maybe give them half of a power play goal on that one, you can go right ahead. But I thought the penalty kill was solid, and to start the game, I mean, you take a penalty very early, an undisciplined trip by Nemesnikov on Kyrou, I believe it was.
Yep.
And you need to kill that off, given how Game 3 went. And we know how this game played out as well. But if the Jets went down 1-0 early, this could have got a lot uglier, a lot quicker. And the Jets killed it off. They got to their game, and they were the better team in the first period. I know it ended 1-1, and we'll get into the goals for each team here. But if Scott O'Neill wanted a good start, and all the players were talking about it, this was their best start of the series. Funny enough, if you're looking for a silver lining as a Jets fan, you can maybe look at the first period, because there had been some shaky starts in every single game to start this series for Winnipeg. But this one, they weathered the early PK. Hellebuyck did make some big key saves, but then the Jets really settled in and really dominated the opening 20, even though they were tied. And maybe you look at the 2 power plays and think that was maybe a missed opportunity to extend that lead more than 1-1.
Yeah, around like halfway through the period, Jets are out shooting the Blues 10-3, and you think they're in control. However, the score was 0-0. They did have the 2 power plays, and they weren't able to capitalize. 0 for 2 with the man advantage in this one, and that's been a story of the series. You look at the entire series, 2 for 12 for the Jets, and that is just not going to get it done for a team that had the best power play in the National Hockey League for the regular season. Nowhere close to that here in round 1. Now you're missing Ehlers and Velarde, and they were a huge factor in having those power play numbers throughout the year. But, to be outplaying the Blues like they are and having it still 0-0, after those penalties, I agree, it would be a missed opportunity. The Jets' first line, really nice shift there in the, around 6-7 minutes left, putting pressure on the Blues, creating turnovers, and you have a point shot, and I think it's Perfetti tries to jam it in off the side. It squeaks out to Connor, and he just puts a backhand in, and the Jets are on the board 1-0, and they got to be feeling pretty good to scoring first after giving up a couple quick ones in Game 3.
Scoring first and controlling the flow of play at this point, where like you said, the shots on goal were 10-3. Yes, you missed on some power play opportunities, but the Jets were really dominating the flow of play at this point, and they got rewarded for it. This shift was really strong from the Jets because they forced 3 or 4 turnovers from the Blues. Like, the Blues had opportunities to clear the zone, and Alex Iafallo knocked a puck down. Cole Perfetti knocked a puck down after that line change happened. Kyle Connor even knocked a puck down as well, and you get the point shot. Cole Perfetti's kind of backdoor there and just misses. He has the whole net to shoot out and kind of hits the back post. You can see it bounce right here off the back wall. He hits the post, and then Kyle Connor goes 5-hole on a sliding Colton Parayko. So a very interesting and weird goal to start it off, but the whole shift, you could see that the Jets earned a goal. Whether it was Cole Perfetti missing the open net and hitting the post, Kyle Connor shoveling one backhand through a defender's feet, the Jets spent like a full minute in the offensive zone there, and they were rewarded for it, and capped off a really good start up until this point.
Yeah, and if you had any doubts about the Jets after the way they played in Game 3, I think you're feeling pretty good. The start of Game 4, outplaying the Blues, back to playing their game, not giving up shots, as you said, forechecking and creating chances. They've been in control, leading 1-0 until the final minute of the first period. the puck's in deep, and the St. Louis gains control of it, and it gets back to the defense, who've been very strong for St. Louis all series. You've got Fowler. He goes to shoot, blocked to Parayko, takes a shot, and Jake Neighbors, a very nice tip in front, and all of a sudden it's 1-1, and the crowd's into it. The Blues are into it because the Blues know they just got outplayed for a whole period, and they were celebrating very hard, saying, hey, we survived this. We're tied 1-1 now, and we can come back and try to get back to our game for the final two. But what did you see on this one, Connor?
Yeah, first on the play, I mean, the Jets had numbers with the puck pinned on the wall in the corner. And Scott O'Neill, after the game, called it a defensive coverage breakdown when that puck gets out of the corner and gets to Fowler at the point, who then shoots it on net. As you can see, the Jets have three numbers there. The Blues have three numbers. Maybe you could even argue four for the Jets there. And yeah, it gets back up to the point, fires it. And Jake Neighbors with a really nice deflection. Lot of bodies in front, lot of screens, lot of deflections in this game. Clearly, that's what the St. Louis Blues were going for, and it worked. And this was the first goal of many of that style, point shot with a deflection or a screen in front. And yeah, it's another example of the Blues forechecking well. The Jets maybe with some defensive coverage, and what a backbreaker for the Jets, because you just played your best first period of the series and you had nothing to show for it as you went into the first intermission at 1-1.
Yeah, very reminiscent of, what was it, game one, where they allowed the goal with, it was in the corner, can't get it out, and all of a sudden, the Blues score. They were able to rebound in that game and win. How would they respond here coming up in the second period? For the first half of the second period, they were going pretty good.
Yeah, it was kind of a continuation of the first. And yes, the Jets had some moments. The Blues had some moments as well, but you didn't get the inkling that what happened was about to happen. Like the Jets weren't pinned in their own zone the whole start of the second period. It was like, oh my goodness, they're hanging on for dear life, and the Blues are just bound to break this game wide open. It was pretty even the first half of the second period, and then the last half of the second period was the worst 10 minutes I think the Jets have played in this series so far, or a contender with the first 10 minutes of Game 3 in St. Louis. So
yeah,
I didn't get the sense that like, wow, St. Louis is about to break this game wide open, but that is definitely what happened here, the back half of the second.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar. You lose a battle on the boards. Nick Leddy gets it to Tucker, and he blasts it in. You got Josh Morrissey battling with Sundqvist in front, and I don't think Hellebuck saw this one. And, it's the game's 2-1, but you still feeling, hey, the Jets have had more zone time. They're still out shooting. I think the period was still in the Jets' favor, but it really, the scales kind of flipped after this one. But it's another goal in front with a screen that Connor Hellebuck can't see.
Yeah, and that was the story of this game. And we'll get into all the rest of the goals in a minute here, but this was the first, or I guess the second, because the Jake Neighbors one was also a screen and a deflection. But yeah, I thought you described it perfectly. A little board battle on the side there. Puck gets to the wall. Letty gets it over to Tucker, who blasts a one-timer, and you'll see the number 70 Sundqvist crosses over the eyes of Hellebuck at the perfect time. Him and Josh Morrissey's in the way a little bit there as well. And Hellebuck just catches it late. Brandon Tanev doesn't block the shot at the point, and it ends up in the back of the net. And it's very clear that in these last two games, maybe they didn't do it as much or as effectively in the first two games, but in games 3 and 4, the St. Louis Blues are getting bodies to the front of the net. The Jets can't box them out. They're firing away from the point, whether it's a wrist shot, a slap shot, looking for a deflection, looking to score, and it's working. It's beating Connor Hellebuck. It's the method that the Colorado Avalanche used last year, and it's something that the Jets will need to solve if they want to win this series. And this was the first one of in this period that led to a few of the same variety for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the St. Louis Blues defense blasting from the point. Look at the first couple goals. You've got two defensemen scoring points in them. Parayko and Fowler on the first one, tipped in by Neighbors. Tyler Tucker scoring from Leddy and Texier. Got Parayko getting in later. Justin Falk. This Blues defense really contributing a lot offensively. And yeah, so it's 2-1, and you have a penalty. Adam Lowry in a post-whistle scrum grabs a hold of Tucker, who just scored, hauls him down, and gets 2 for roughing.
Mhm.
I think you can argue that you've seen stuff in other series not called, but grabbed a guy and dragged him down from the jersey. I think this was an easy call for the officials, Connor. I'm not sure how you felt about that penalty.
Yeah, and it's that time of the game too where the temperature of it was rising, and you could just tell that whoever was gonna do maybe the retaliatory or like there was a scrum was gonna happen and one player was gonna get sent to the box, and it just so happened that Adam Lowry pulls Tucker to the ground. That's the biggest thing that happens in the scrum, and he gets to go. Was there roughing from a few players? Probably, but um, undisciplined. I mean, it's a post whistle penalty in the playoffs. Those just sting. And the Jets killed it off, but then right after, this is when Braden Shen scores, I believe. So this is barely a penalty kill. It goes down as one, but they scored literally on the next rush up the ice. So
I should note maybe the Jets' best scoring chance, Mason Appleton ripping one off the post. 5:33 left in the second. He's a guy, he got robbed in game 1, and you talk about secondary scoring. I mean, it's something from just about anyone. I mean, when this game is all said and done, they've had 3 goals in 2 games in St. Louis. You're not going to score averaging 1.5 goals a game and giving up, well, what they've given up. And right after that that penalty kill, they dump it in, and Jordan Binnington stick handling behind the net, evading Kyle Connor, passes to Shen, who takes it in. Some nice passing by the Blues, and it ends up going through the net, and Shen follows up the rebound and puts it in past Hellebuck, who's trying to poke it with his stick. Just all around, started in the Blues end and ended up in the back of the Jets net. Not a great sequence for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to this goal that, from a Jets perspective, you don't like. First, I want to start with the pass from Jordan Binnington. He steps around his net and fires a backhand saucer. Like, look at that. Like, that is a breakout pass to a defenseman from your goalie on his backhand. That was pretty impressive, I thought. And then I know we're not watching the real goal. These are just dots, but in my opinion, the dots are moving too slow from Winnipeg's perspective there. 81 and 55, Connor and Scheifele are in a position to maybe backtrack and get to this play and make a play on it in front of the net. But they're too late to it. Braden Shen beats them to the front of the net. And then Connor Hellebuck. Everyone wants to dunk on Connor Hellebuck from this game. This is maybe the goal that he'd most want to have back, because the puck is kind of laying there in the crease and he poke checks with his stick. And Braden Shen just outmuscles him. I don't like the Sportsnet panel at the intermission said he didn't look very confident in that moment. He didn't look assertive with the poke check. He was kind of in the middle of doing both, of trying to look big in the net and trying to poke check, and didn't do either. And Braden Shen just roofed it because Hellebuck's deep in his net, but he's poke checking. He was kind of caught in between two there. A lot to dislike from the Jets, both, I think, from the effort getting back to the front of the net and protecting the house, and from Connor Hellebuck, who got pulled late in the game, so he clearly had a rough night. But this one, I think he could have been more assertive with the poke check, or face the shot head on without poke checking as well.
Yeah, just going through the goal here, you see Mark Scheifele, he's one-on-one with Shen, who's coming up the ice and, misses his check there, and Shen just skates by him. Then you have Scheifele and Connor on the back check. Sandberg Knight tries to make a nice play when Parayko's taking it wide behind the net and goes off his skate, and Hellebuck goes with a one-handed poke, as you said, gets out-muscled, and after this it's 3-1, and you think, okay, the Jets still think, okay, 2 goals, they can make a comeback here still, try to get out of this period, but you can't even get out of the period as Justin Falk ends up with a puck on the point, and again, some pressure by the Blues. Neighbors finds Falk blasted, and it goes off a Pionk's ass and in the back of the net, and all of a sudden it's 4-1, and you're just having a lot of the same feelings as last playoffs. The Jets' defensive structure not being there. The Blues getting to the front of the net, point shots from the D, getting screened. It's just feeling not only familiar to last game, but familiar to last, playoff series. And now Connor Hellebuck's let in 4 goals, and the playoff Hellebuck over this playoffs and the last 2 really, hasn't been the goalie that he's been in the regular season. And at this point, it's 4-1 with a minute left in the second.
Yeah, and this one really stings for a lot of reasons. I've said that for a few goals now, but Falk with a minute left in the second period, like you said, it's a 2-goal game at this point. So it's 3-1. The Blues have scored 3 unanswered goals, but you're still kind of in it. And if you get to the third period at 3-1, you'll eventually have the opportunity to pull your goalie and get a goal that way, or try and get a goal that way. So you're still absolutely in this game. This shot is going wide. This shot from Justin Falk is absolutely going wide. They showed the angle from behind the net, right behind Connor Hrabchak, and it's going wide. Neil Pionk is boxing out a player at the side of the net. And like you said, the puck goes off his ass and in. It looks terrible on Connor Hrabchak's part because it's an unscreened, untipped point shot that ends up behind him. But then you watch the replay from inside the net and you see it bounce kind of off Pionk, off Hrabchak's leg, and then behind him, which is just such a bad bounce. But also it's like, you watching it in real time, you think Connor Hrabchak should absolutely have that one because it's an unscreened, untipped point shot. And the time of the game that it came at, too, to make it 4-1 going into the third period, just brutal on so many levels. And give full credit to the Blues here. They were controlling the flow of play. And when you control the flow of play, bounces like this happen, things like this happen when you outshoot your opponent. And they absolutely did that in the final 10 minutes of the second here.
A lot of their goals are starting from winning board battles and applying pressure.
Yes.
And like, look, another in the corner. You got 2 Jets here, Nemesnikov and Niederreiter, and 1 blue, and then 2 come in. Kyrou gets it to Shen, who had a really nice one-timer chance. And because they're all chasing, look, Niederreiter had to go from the corner, all the way around to cover Neighbors, who's wide open, and finds Falk, who's open. So they got caught running around, and Scott O'Neill said after the game it was a lot of coverage issues. And he said it now 2 games in a row. And, what I think this coming in the playoffs, you thought, okay, the Jets have learned from last year. They're not going to make the same mistakes in terms of leaving, the structure that's got them to the President's Trophy. And you're seeing a lot of that in this playoffs, which is, giving fans several flashbacks. And then TNT broadcast coming out with this graphic, Connor Hrabchak in his last 13 playoff games, 4+ goals allowed in 10 of the last 13 games. So we've already talked about the power play being 2 for 12. You're not getting depth scoring. Well, if you're allowing 4+ goals a game, you're not going to win any games. And the games, the 2 wins were in the game we gave up 3. In game 1 and game 2, they gave up 1 and 1. So he ended up giving 5, and that was the game there. But I think I don't know where you're at on Hrabchak. If his numbers are absolutely atrocious, and I think at some point you are what your numbers are. But some of these goals are tough. But they need to save. There's a lot going wrong for the Jets. To say it's one thing is tough.
Agreed. But goalies are the biggest impact player on the ice, right? Like a week ago or a week and a day ago, we were arguing Connor Hrabchak for the Hart Trophy. We still are. It's a regular season award. Yeah. And now I see people on social media asking who should start game 5. And it's like, if you can't admit that playoff Hrabchak, we spent a lot of time debating whether or not playoff Hrabchak is a thing. If we're going into game 5 and people are genuinely asking like who should start game 5, playoff Hrabchak has to be a thing. Like it can't not be a thing if some people are genuinely curious about who should start game 5. Connor Hrabchak will start. Scott O'Neill said after the game that he has 100% confidence in Connor Hrabchak. So yes, obviously they're going to start their MVP candidate goalie and hope that he figures it out. But I mean, you are what your stats are. And I agree with what you said there, Remis. And Connor Hrabchak's stats in the playoffs, especially these last 3 years, are not pretty. Last year against Colorado, I think it was an entire team collapse. This year against St. Louis, games 1 and 2, I thought Hrabchak was good. Maybe game 1, he could have had a few back, but the Jets ended up winning that game. Game 2 was easily his best. He had a 930-something save percentage in that game, stopped 21 of 22. And then these last 2 games, a few goals that you'd like to have back, a few screenshots, a few defensive breakdowns. It's just one thing or the other. But if your MVP star goaltender is going to have a sub .850 save percentage in a hockey series. Whether you're Connor Hrabchak or whether you're Stuart Skinner on the Edmonton Oilers, that's not a winning formula. So Connor Hrabchak absolutely has to be better. Does the team in front of him have to be better as well? Of course, but if you're the MVP, that's the pressure that comes with it, or one of the MVP candidates, we should say. That's the pressure that comes with it, and Connor Hrabchak is not meeting that standard right now.
Yeah, it's tough to watch a guy that they relied on for so long get lit up like this. I do think, especially last year, I think it was a team thing, but if it keeps happening, and these are the numbers we just showed, it's, again, you can't really argue with what the numbers show there in terms of the number of goals that he's allowed in the last playoff series. We mentioned the Jets losing Game 3 to Minnesota in 2018. Well, Hrabchak had back-to-back shutouts. He's capable of having good games in the playoffs, like Nashville, Game 7, against the Edmonton series as well. So we'll see how they respond going forward. But the game's not done, as much as it does feel like it at a 4-1. Robert Thomas with the exclamation mark 2 minutes in the third period. Giveaway by Kyle Connor in the offensive zone. Comes back a 3-on-2, and Robert Thomas, left all alone, takes it to the net, puts it past Hrabchak. That's the end of his night. And for 5-1, that was pretty much the end of the game, 2 minutes into the third period.
And this goal was, I think, a culmination of everything that we've said about the Jets. This wasn't a point shot. This wasn't a screenshot. But look, you saw it right there. Kyle Connor had possession of the puck in the offensive zone, tries to hit Josh Morrissey. And then the defensive coverage coming back just simply isn't good enough. You let Robert Thomas, the Blues' best forward, or one of, dance right in on Connor Hrabchak. Basically a breakaway coming down the slot there, goes to the backhand, and a lot of stick lift attempts as well on this goal that did not go well. The dots are moving too slow. I said it for one of the other goals. I'll say it again for this one. The dots were moving too slow for this one. Again, we can talk all about Connor Hrabchak, but you watch that play. Robert Thomas is the Blues' most dangerous forward, and he's walking right down Main Street with a breakaway. Like, I don't know. Like, Connor Hrabchak, should he have this one? Is this a breakaway that he's got to have? Like, maybe time of the game because it's 4-1, and this was ultimately the dagger that he needs to have this one. But I don't know. I think there's a lot more to blame here than Connor Hrabchak before that gets down the list. I don't know what you think, Remo.
Yeah, at first they kind of let him walk in, and I want to be like, DeMello, just let him walk in, but he's got to cover the pass. So that's what you do. You let the goalie have the shooter, and he got beat. And you mentioned the dots moving slow. It's Kyle Connor who's hustling back after the giveaway, trying to reach in for a stick lift that doesn't get there. So that's the end of Hrabchak's night. Again, the end of the Jets' night. I don't know if you have any takeaways from the rest of the game there. Braden Chen had a breakaway. Appleton had another chance. There was an injury. Tyler Tucker got injured, and it sounds like he's not going to be available. And then, the Jets just trying to mix it up at the end. You're down 5-1. I mean, 2 games in a row when you're down big, trying to do little extracurriculars after the whistle. I don't know. Not sure. Send a message.
Sure.
It's at a certain point, it's kind of embarrassing, but you got to show a little fire that, hey, you think you're better than the way that you've played.
Yeah, and look, the Blues did the same thing after Game 1. We were there in the building, true. Remo up in the press box, and there was a big scrum when after Adam Lowry's emptying a goal to make it 5-3 for the Jets, and the whiteout was on their feet, and everyone was having a great time. And when you're on that side of it, it's a lot better, but on this side of it, yeah, I agree with you. 2 games in a row, kind of got run out of the building here in St. Louis, and the crowd in St. Louis was loving it, and that crowd was rocking. This was their first playoff game at home in a while, in a couple years, I believe. So, or these two of
yes,
this
2022.
2022, yes. So it's been a couple of years for them, and they were rocking both games. And hey, your team wins 7-2 and then 5-1. There's no reason not to cheer. So, that crowd was going there at the Enterprise Center.
Yeah, so Game 5 coming back to Winnipeg. I do remember the last time these two teams played a Game 5.
Don't bring it up.
In Winnipeg, tied 2-2. Still have nightmares about that game. So we'll see how the Jets respond. As bad as these last 2 games were, they did play well at home. The series is tied. They do have 2 of the next 3 at home. You have to figure, hey, with a couple days rest, maybe Velarde comes back. They're still in position to win the series as bad as they've looked here, the 2 games in St. Louis.
Yes, and I think that's the ultimate takeaway from this game is there are a lot of things that the Winnipeg Jets will have to tweak to win this series, and they're in a good position to do that. They get 2 days off. They have home ice for this best of 3, starting at Game 5 on Wednesday night. They've got to clean up the point shots, the screen shots. They have to do better with the box outs. They have to generate more offense. They need to click on the power play. Gabriel Velarde will help with both of those things. I would expect Gabriel Velarde to play on Wednesday. I know we'll wait for Scott O'Neill's official word on that, of course, but he took warmups, had a contact skate on Saturday before the game. So presumably with 2 more contact skates going into Wednesday's game, I would think Gabriel Velarde will be in the lineup, and what a boost that will be for the power play for the Jets that, like you said, 2 for 12 in the series. And the Jets' advantages in the regular season have to get back to being their advantages in the playoffs. Home ice has been an advantage, and that was one for the Jets in the regular season. But the other 2 like major advantages for this Jets team was goaltending and their power play. And both of those have been well below average in this series so far. And hey, like you said, 2-2, home ice, best of 3 in a next game, and you could get a big crucial win in this series. So the Jets will have to bounce back in a big way, generate more offense. Connor Hrabchak has to be better, and the Jets in front of him at boxing out have to be better as well. And Gabriel Velarde on the power play hopefully can give them a spark too.
It was interesting to hear Scott O'Neill, say this game and last game. I think I already said this, how their coverages, they got away from them, and that wasn't stuff that they did during the regular season. And I do find it interesting now that, 2 years in a row in the playoffs, they found a way to get away from things they did in the regular season. We do have some trends and tweets I wanted to highlight before we finish off here. Jesse Granger from The Athletic says, I went back and watched every goal Winnipeg has allowed the last 2 playoffs, excluding empty netters. 14 of 40 were either screened, tipped, or both. That's 35%. This year alone, it's 8 of 16, 50%. Of the goals Winnipeg has scored, 5 of 24 were screens or tips. That's 20%. So they're allowing players in the front of the net getting those screen opportunities while not generating of their own. And Jim Montgomery did say after the game that they owned the front of the net. And here's Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, says, I think the world of Connor Hrabchak. He's an unbelievable goaltender, but his team is lost in front of him, and the Blues have preyed on 3 of his weaknesses: passive hands, lack of edge release, and backward flow off the rush. Puck handling. The Blues pre-scout nailed it, and he is in the St. Louis area, keeping an eye on this series. You want more, Connor? More stats here. Here's Murata Tesh of The Athletic saying the Winnipeg Jets haven't won a playoff game after losing one since 2019 against St. Louis. They were swept by Montreal in round 2 of 2021. They missed the playoffs in 2022, and then in 23, 4 straight to Vegas. Last year, 4 straight to Colorado. And if you want to count the 2020 qualification round against Calgary, where it was tied 1-1, you can count that. The NHL counts that as playoffs. I think some fans may not. Either way, that's pretty mind-blowing there, how many years in a row you haven't been able to win a playoff game after losing one.
It's a concern, and it's something that this group has to overcome. And how long have we talked about going, teams that go through heartbreak before they win a cup, like Alexander Ovechkin forever with the Washington Capitals? How many years did they lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins before they finally won it? And the Florida Panthers lost and then won it, and Vegas lost and then won it. These cores of teams have had these heartbreaking losses before they win. And it's almost like you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. The Jets have done a lot of learning how to lose, and the bounce back part seems to be missing, especially these last 2 seasons where they got reverse swept the last 2 years. Or I know some people think a reverse sweep is you win 3 games and then lose 4, but win 1 and then lose the next 4 is what happened the last 2 seasons. And then this year they won 2, and they've lost 2 straight now, and they need to halt that. Going into Game 5, 2-2 series, home ice advantage, Gabriel Velarde potentially back. Like a lot of things are still going right for the Winnipeg Jets despite these two performances here. And they'll look to bounce back in the playoffs for the first time since 2019. Which is crazy to say.
Yeah, and Mike McIntyre noted as well. These stats, the amount of times I've typed "yikes" in a chat to people over the last two games, more than normal. Mike McIntyre is saying the Jets are on their way to their 6th straight playoff road loss, spanning 3 years, right. 3 different series, 2 different coaches. Game 2 and 5 in Vegas, 3 and 4 in Denver, 3 and 4 in St. Louis. So we'll see the Jets on the road. Thankfully for them, there's 3 games left in the series, and 2 of them are at home. So we'll see how they respond on Wednesday, and we'll keep an eye on any lineup changes, most notably Gabriel Velarde. Connor, we've gone extra long here. Any other final thoughts, or have we said it all?
Game 5's a big one. Wednesday night, 8:30. That's all I'm gonna say. I've said my piece with this Jets team bouncing back and what is ailing them so far in these 2 games here, but there's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the President's Trophy winning team, the number 1 team during the regular season, and what they can do with 2 days off, Gabriel Velarde potentially back, home ice advantage, and the whiteout is going to be loud, home ice advantage for sure with in front of the whiteout. So I'm excited for Game 5. I know the vibes are low, but I think 2 days off going into Game 5 will really help us hype it up and make it a big game, which it's a massive game given the road stats that you just brought up there. And the Jets, if they were going back to St. Louis down 3-2, that would be a tall task. So a big game Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to it.
Big game Wednesday. We'll have 2 days to discuss. Tune in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, 1 p.m. weekdays on YouTube. Also available on podcast. Every link that you want, social medias as well, podcast links in the description of this video. If you made it this far to the end, thank you so much. Hit the like button. Leave a comment after how you're feeling about the series. We've been hearing from a lot of Blues fans. Appreciate you coming in, being respectful in the comments, enjoying the series as well. And subscribe to the channel. As you mentioned, a lot of great content coming out. Hit the notification bell so you can get notified when videos like these are released. So for Connor Hrabchak, I'm Michael Remis. This has been the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction. Thanks again, everyone who tuned in. Bye-bye.